There's never enough time. Not when you're scaling, not when you're struggling, not when things are going well. This episode is about how to operate when time is permanently constrained without burning out or collapsing your standards. I'm Burnett King, the founder of Noble Crown Fragrances, a company designed to elevate your space through the power of scent. The Noble Crown podcast is here to talk about the business of building a fragrance brand with tips, advice, and lessons learned that will help you reach your goals faster and learn more about the industry. Welcome to episode 4 of the Noble Crown podcast. Today's episode is for solo founders. Solopreneurs, as they're called. People running real businesses without teams, assistants, or infrastructure to absorb their mistake. Not people with lots of employees, not people with venture capital funding, people who are doing everything by themselves. Production, marketing, fulfillment, customer service, finance, strategy, all inside the same brain. But before we get started, if you're watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe. It genuinely helps more founders to find this content. So, time is not something you eventually solve. Time is a permanent constraint of solo entrepreneurship. And honestly, it doesn't disappear even after you have employees. The mistakes most founders make is believing that, hey, if I just get through this busy period, things will calm down. They won't. The real skill is learning how to operate inside permanent scarcity. So why does this matter? Burnout doesn't come from working too much. It comes from working on the wrong things at the wrong time with no sense of scale and growth. This episode is going to help you stay effective when you are always behind. So let's talk about the solo founder illusion, right? Founders believe they need better time management, they need better routines, they need more discipline, they need to wake up earlier. The reality is they need better filters. The problem is not how many hours you work, it's how many decisions you allow to exist in your day. So most time pressure comes from complexity, not workload. You either have too many SKUs, too many tools, too many software, too many unfinished projects, too many half priorities, right? You don't need to work faster. You need to work on fewer things. You need to learn to prioritize those things that are going to scale your time better in the future. Let's talk about 3 time killers, right? The first time killer is emotional work. So these are things like answering non-urgent emails immediately, tweaking aesthetics endlessly over and over again, and then overthinking super small decisions. So it feels productive. It feels like you're working a lot because you are. You're burning a ton of energy, but you're not creating any scaling. So here's an example about changing button colors, right? If you know anything about kind of conversion optimization on a website, you know that button color matters, right? And so you can become obsessed with like, what color should this button be, especially if it's your like shop now button. But instead of like trying one variation and then throwing it out, or like sitting there trying to decide, spending 2 weeks trying to decide what color to change the button to, you should spend your time setting up an experimentation platform, right? Not just on button color, but for your entire website or even your entire business. And if you don't have time to like research platforms, experimental platforms, website optimization platforms, A/B testing, instead, just create an experimental spreadsheet, right? So you can come up with a spreadsheet that shows like, hey, I'm going to run this experiment. I'm going to start on this date. I'm going to run it for this long. And then here are the results, right? It can be that simple. And that's going to be more effective than obsessing over a button color, right? So that's just an example. Time killer number 2 is context switching, right? And this I see every day. So you're jumping between marketing, production, administrative, creative, operations, right? This is what happens when you're working by yourself. But every one of those switches has a hidden cost. Your brain has to like shift from one mode to another, and that is not effective in a long-term sense. The real enemy is not all of these tasks, it's the transitions between them. So I find that this usually happens the worst at a daily level, right? There's so many things you have to get done in one day. For me, I need to get orders out. I need to post on social media. I need to create new inventory, talk to suppliers, talk to wholesale partners, and strategize about future products and collections. So I'm not going to give you a solution right now, but we will in a few minutes here. The third time killer is optional projects, right? What could I do in the future? Like, this would be a nice to have. Here's something I would love to launch. Experiments with no deadline, right? If everything is a priority, nothing is. So I've launched products that I loved creatively that have added complexity and just have gone on for years and returned almost nothing financially, right? And how does that happen? So we're going to talk about how to counter all three of these time killers. First of all, time is like a system problem, not a personal flaw, right? You aren't failing at solving time, right? It's a constraint. So these are the counters I use to tackle each one of those time killers we just discussed. So first, for emotional work, what I recommend is called operating in seasons. So instead of micro optimizing around little things that seem super important, you want to pre-decide what matters, right? For this month or this time period, everything else becomes background noise, and you stop emotionally responding to every little thing that pops up, right? So instead of fire drills that you have to put out, you are thinking about, hey, this is what's important, and I'm going to focus on that. So when I'm in production mode, I don't care about Instagram. When I'm in marketing mode, I don't care about pouring bottles of perfume, right? The seasons protect me from myself, right? And this directly allows you to prioritize in a specific time period. And that can be for an hour, right? So you can say, here's what I'm going to prioritize for the next hour. Here's what I'm going to prioritize for the day, the month, the quarter, right? This blends into counter number 2 against context switching. So I call it one substantial shift. So you want to have maybe one substantial shift per quarter, right? So you're not constantly task switching or revamping your strategy for your business over and over again. And again, why does this work? So you're reducing cognitive overhead, right? All the things that you have to think about. You're eliminating daily strategic decisions. And instead, you're focusing on depth on one particular topic rather than breadth across a bunch of different topics. So if this quarter is about wholesale for you, right? It's not about improving the website. It's not about launching a new scent. It's not about optimizing ads. Everything should route back to wholesale. Now, as you grow your team or as you get better at this, you can have more than one substantial thing, but I like to have literally one thing each quarter. I think 3 months sets up a good time to focus on one particular thing. This is probably the biggest burnout factor is mental fatigue, and this is the counter to that. The third counter, right, on optional projects is what I call just ruthless elimination. So it solves all these side launches and nice to haves. Essentially what you're doing is you're creating artificial scarcity of attention, right? So your attention is limited to what's important rather than all of these other things that you can probably trade off. It also keeps your roadmap short enough to finish. So let's take an example. If you're focused on sales growth for the quarter, right, you're really focused on revenue, then you need to phrase it like this. If something doesn't generate revenue, stability, or scaling within the next 90 days, it doesn't exist, right? There can be this amazing project. You know what I do with those? I literally have a column in my Trello board that's called holding pen. I throw the genius ideas that can wait into the holding pen because they're not important for this particular quarter. So this kills all those optional collections that you want to design, exploring new software products or new advertising teams. Wouldn't it be cool if all those kind of projects, they don't become important in those 90 days? If you put them in the holding pen, you can always decide to prioritize them for a later time period. So none of these systems are really that hard to understand. What's hard is sticking to them. So that's what we're going to talk about next, right? And it's really a psychological shift. Here's a hard truth. Solo entrepreneurship is not about doing more. It's about disappointing more, right? And what do I mean by disappointing more? You need to disappoint ideas, opportunities, requests, trends, and this is the hardest one, people. You need to disappoint people. You're not going to be able to do everything and be successful. So in order to protect your energy, your core products, your sanity, your future capacity, you need to say no. You need to learn that saying no is not a restraint to opportunities. It's actually the business model. It's making you focus on your customer, your products, and how you're going to achieve your goals. Saying no is not a bad thing. So I want you to repeat a few things after me, right? You will never catch up. You will never catch up. That's the most important one of these mantras I'm going to give you. You need to eliminate before you optimize, right? So don't try to optimize everything. You need to eliminate a few things and then focus on the one thing that you need to optimize. Fewer projects beat better planning, right? So you can plan out all of these projects. I love to plan out like 10 things. And then I'm like, I can't accomplish 10 things, even if it's a perfect plan, because there's not enough time, right? In reality, I should be focused on fewer projects rather than all this extensive planning. Systems beat motivation, right? So your motivation is going to go up and down. Especially when you're doing this by yourself, your emotions are going to kind of come into play. And so your motivation can be low one day, but if you have a system that you stick to, a rule set, a guidebook, a framework, like those things are the things that you can fall back to. If it doesn't scale, it doesn't deserve your attention, right? When you're a solopreneur at the beginning, you need to figure out things that will scale your time. And if that is not something that is going to scale your time, it doesn't deserve your attention. Rest is part of production. Now, this one is hitting home right now. I've gotten sick because I don't take any breaks. I get unfocused because I don't take breaks. Rest is part of the production process. If you don't have time to rest, then the rest of your time is less efficient. So we're going to recap on a few things and then close it out. So there is no finish line. Time scarcity is permanent. Your job is not to keep up, it's to choose wisely. Burnout comes from misalignment, not effort, right? So the real luxury as a founder is not free time or more time. It's controlled attention, right? Focusing your attention. Eliminate all of the noise, and all of a sudden you will find time, right? And the most powerful thing you can build as a solo entrepreneur is not a brand. It's not a product. It's not even revenue. It's a business that does not require you to be everywhere at once, even when you're still small, right? This will take time, but it's possible. You don't need to be everywhere at once. I'm repeating this again. You don't need to be everywhere at once. Okay, so thank you for listening to the Noble Crown podcast today. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe for future episodes. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.